Again, my name is Michelle Von Dijk. I'm part of the staff team for MACMA, and we are really excited to present today's program with Jeff Litvack. And before Lisa Pistilli, our board president, takes over, I just want to share a few things with you, do a little bit of housekeeping with you. We appreciate the favor of you staying on mute throughout the program. You don't need to touch anything with your view of Zoom. We will make sure that you get to see the person who's speaking. We also want to encourage you to ask questions. Please use the chat feature. We do not have Q&A the way we're presenting today's program. So I hope you enjoy. And for those of you who are continuing to come in, hopefully those not listening can catch up and at this point have your Zoom etiquette perfectly practiced and on par or on, yeah. Anyhow, so here we go, everybody. So if you have been paying attention, you may have seen that we have changed our logo and our rebranding. Lisa will certainly be talking to you more about that in a minute, but we do want to welcome you to MACMA's first event, woohoo, the Media Audience and Content Marketing Association, where the conversation happens. Welcome on behalf of us. We also want to share with you some upcoming events. You've probably seen those as well. The February 4th program was just added, so please mark your calendars, please register. We hope you'll make it. We've got some fun stuff going on, and this is just the beginning of the year. So more to come on that. And of course, here we are, that time of year. You know, we have to ask, we wouldn't be doing our jobs if we didn't say, if you haven't renewed yet, please make sure to renew your membership. And for those of you who aren't members, you will hear today, you will experience a program that will encourage you to want to join. And just remember, we will be reaching out next week anyhow and giving you the opportunity to tell us that you want to join. We'll make it as easy as possible. And we're excited to welcome you to the MACMA family. Also, you can see that we are on social and we hope that you'll follow us. And we also want to ask you that if you're on social, which I'm sure you are, to make sure that you share how excited you are after today's program and how much you learned and gathered. So trying to speed through this so Jeff can get started. Here are our sponsors, and we want to thank you to those of you who are on the call today of our sponsors. And we do have more coming in that we haven't even had time to add to the slideshow. Please, if you are working with any of the folks on this list, we want to ask that you let them know that you are on the program, thank them for sponsoring, because without our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to do programs like today. So great job there. We also, again, more information for those of you, I'm sure if you registered, have been on our website. We are still live on this URL, the-mcma.org, but coming soon, going live next week is the-MACMA, the MACMA.org. Cool. Don't forget, check out the new brand. It's awesome. So all of that said, now I want to turn this over to Lisa. Again, Lisa Pistilli, our MACMA president, and she will get to say a few words now.
Good morning, everybody. Actually, it's good afternoon already. Thank you all for being here. I'm super excited to have you all here. It is the first event of the Media Audience and Content Marketing Association. I am so grateful you're all here. I want to thank the board for all of their support for 2021 and coming into 2022. I am honored to announce that we have two new board members, Elizabeth Kachoris from PMMI Media Group and Barbara Nelson from CDS Global. We're grateful that you have both joined the board. I want to thank Matt Steinmetz for agreeing to be my vice president this year. And we have a ton of amazing programming coming up, which is going to begin in about 45 seconds with the dynamic Jeff Litvack. For those of you who've never had the privilege of hearing Jeff speak, he is dynamic, energetic, has an amazing perspective and a great sense of humor. Formerly the CEO of Adweek, with stints before that at the Rob Report, ALM, and AP. So he is currently the new CEO of Golden Peak Media. And I am excited to hear about Jeff's spin on what's next, what 2022 and 2023 and onward will bring. And I'm really honored to introduce him. I heard him the first time a few years ago and I was just blown away. So Jeff, thank you again for being here. And I am going to ask the team to allow you to be unmuted and take over.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Let me call up my screen as well. Give me 1 sec. And do a little share screen. We're gonna presentation. Hit this. Perfect. All right. So let me begin by first giving a couple of shout outs. First to Andy Knoll, who's out there. I don't think you've ever missed a single presentation I've given. I don't understand why you keep coming back, but you do. So I thank you for always being there for everybody. Second, I want to say hello to Jemima, who's one of my Adweek team members previously, and I'm glad she's here and miss working with you, kiddo. All right, so what else? Finally, make sure that you renew your membership, guys. Really important. By the way, Matt, I think I get a little commission fee right now, right, for everyone that renews and new ones as well.
We'll take that offline, Jeff.
All right, good. All right, I just want to make sure because we all have to make our money somehow. So. Guys, it's great to be here. Thank you for joining me on a 3-day holiday weekend. I cannot believe there are this many of you guys. It's really a privilege. I'm going to talk what I always do and kind of talk a little bit about. If I can get it going here, where we go. Some predictions. I am known for giving the top 10, not another top 10. Actually, this one won't make top 10 because Matt told me I did not have enough time. So I told him maybe in 2023 he'll allocate more time for me, but that's all right. So let me, I'm going to talk through a couple of things. I think about 7 major things that I want to talk about. First, let's begin by kind of where we're at and what I expect to happen. There has been, in my 20 years of doing media, it has been tough, right? We have been facing nothing but headwinds for a long, long time. In 2022 was the first year in a long time that the industry actually found wind in the sails. And what I found interesting about this is as we kind of catch these trade winds, right? What did we do and what didn't we do? And I thought this Mark Twain quote was kind of apropos, right? I can't fully read it because I got you guys up here, so give me 1 second. 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than by the ones that you did do. So throw off the bowline, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, right? It's all about right now. I think a big opportunity for us is we got a little wind in our sails. What are we doing with that money? Are we pocketing it or are we investing it into new opportunities? And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. What can you expect in 2022? Well, this is not a really great prediction for me because the data is there, right? Everybody is forecasting up. So what happened in let's first look at the growth between 2020 and 2021, and even between 2019 and 2021, right? There was actually a 24% growth year over year between 2019 and 2021. That's what I mean. That's huge, guys. When was the last time we saw that much growth in advertising spending? The second thing is now they're predicting another 12% on top of that. So everyone's should be already seeing, if they're not already, I know we are already at Golden Peak Media, seeing the coffers fill up from an advertising sales perspective. In fact, the bigger issue now is actually one coming down around, I don't know if pages still on, that's all right. Bigger issue right now is coming down around like kind of the trade-offs between subscriptions and advertising dollars. Why do I say that? Because the more that you lock up your content, the less page views you're going to have. But all hail the subscription. Subscription is king, right? I've been talking about this year over year, guys. You've heard me talk about like the importance of subscriptions. 2021 was definitely the year of subscriptions where everybody in between 2020 and 2021 began to do subscriptions. On the right here inside is Forbes. Why did I put Forbes up here? Besides my friend Mike running it, who I love, it's also shocked the hell out of me to see Forbes basically put a full subscription wall. Why? Because if you remember, their model has been contributor-based, right? They paid their contributors based upon traffic. And they built up a huge traffic engine to basically advertise. They were the first to do branded content. And now what you're seeing is, I think it's about 4 articles you're getting, which is not a lot for the number of articles that Forbes is doing, a hard wall. On the left-hand side, what you're seeing of this page is the New York Times. This is 2022, guys, right? They just paid $550 million for an unprofitable company. Why? Because they're going to make them profitable because of subscription. It's recurring revenue. If you already don't have a recurring revenue stream, you're going to be doing one this year. Your PE guys, your partners, people are going to be looking for a way to ensure that you're not just advertising based, but you got a strong recurring revenue. And not a huge prediction. And this is what I was talking about a minute ago. The challenge is, as we put up these walls, we've always known that it would have an impact on our traffic. And on top of that, we're also seeing people change their habits around reading with us. And you're seeing that change of habit come across the board. Some publishers saw as much as a 40% drop in traffic over the past year, which is incredible, right? Most were seeing 10 to 20%. What this done is put tremendous pressure basically on the teams as a whole to have enough. If you've got supply going down, demand going up, what happens, guys? Well, price should increase. And yet, guys, how often the media comes raise the prices? It's like a novel idea to us. Hey, we should be raising our prices, right? It's like never occurs to people. It's like, come on. So I'm assuming some of you guys are laughing there out there, but I'm serious. At Adweek before I left, I sat down. I could see these wins coming, and I sat down with our head of sales and Mehmet, who's his number 2, and we talked about it, and we put price increases. You should be thinking today, and it's looking to 2022 about how to price basically all of your products, and in particular ad products. Do you want to have a rate card, a yearly rate card, or do you want to start doing quarterly? If you look at how the broadcast industry and others have approached this, they approach it much more from a standpoint of it's not a fixed price for the entire year, which is how media companies traditionally have done it. If supply and demand is going to be out of whack, there's an opportunity now to raise prices and to also get and accelerate current buys. So in other words, a simpler way to do that is to say, hey, these prices are fixed for this period of time. If you get in, you can buy it now. If not, you can expect to see price increases coming down the pipe. And I'm going to talk later about costs because it's important to understand why you're also going to meet those price increases. So what else are we going to see? Does anyone else feel this way? I like this one. Let me out. Please let me get the hell out of my apartment, out of my house, away from my family. We love them. I love them dearly, but let me hang out and be with people I like. People are truly ready to travel. Hot off the presses, a lot of these things. This is literally yesterday. Was in today's news. Delta Airlines is predicting and seeing, and they kind of talked to folks, 80% of all people expect to travel more than they did in the fourth quarter, in the first quarter, even as Omicron has continued to expand. On the right-hand side of the page, you'll see I'm on the board of Inman News. I joined them back in June when I left Adweek. Couldn't be more excited. Behringer bought them. And we held an event. They held an event back in October. It was incredible. 3,000 people in Las Vegas. You can see how tightly they were packed. This is still COVID was going on. You could feel the energy in the room of people just being able to connect with each other and see each other. There was happiness. Everyone wore masks. We had all sorts of mandates on vaccination. We had a lot of things that were in place to keep everyone safe. And in fact, to the best of my knowledge, it was not a COVID event for the industry or even for anyone that we heard of. But it was so great to be back in person. And I'm telling you, if you are not prepared to be back in person this year, you are going to miss a huge opportunity. You need to take the bets. Obviously, the tough bets, and we'll talk about CES a little bit later. But you make the bet right now. Go for it. Trust me, one of my predictions is going to be that those who have events in 2022 are going to see huge, huge demand from advertisers and sponsors and attendance. And it's going to be a win-win-win. Those who sit on the sideline continue to say virtual is the way to go. You're going to lose. All right. What else? Another prediction of mine. I can't see the whole thing. So give me a sec here. There we go. So name your price. Who isn't for sale, right? So 2021 was probably one of the, in the last 10 years in terms of media deals, over 800 media deals done. Now, this is broadcast, a bunch of different things in there. But you'll see Meredith is in there, right? Meredith got sold to Dotdash, right? You'll see Axel Springer bought Politico. So it's affecting our industry up and down. More PE dollars are out there. There is a tremendous amount of wealth. So when I left Adweek as well, I joined a small PE firm called Amato Martin and been working with them and following the PE industry. There is so many dollars right now in PE. Basically, they don't know where to put them. And what you're seeing is valuations going up, and you're seeing every type of sale that's happening is being competitively bid out. And so we've also seen as well that media companies themselves are buying other media companies and taking great assets and bringing them into larger engines, whether that's Future PLC or it's Endeavor, both of whom have been very aggressive on the acquisition front. And you're going to see more of that in 2022. It is not slowing down. I've talked to a number of CEOs. I won't name names, but I know so many books that are coming to market right now of companies that are going to be in market. So as you look around, you understand what's happening for you personally, professionally. understand this is a marketplace where there are going to be deals made. It's a good thing at the end of the day. When companies get sold, as we sold to Shamrock, there's more investment, more opportunity for movement, and more things to do. All right. So can things really be this rosy? Can they all be this good? Can we smell the flowers? Can we actually stand back? Like, when in media, with the winds in our sails, can we just breathe easy and be like, this is going to be a perfect year? Here comes the bad news on predictions. How much does that cost? We are going to see, if you've got paper-based businesses, and this is dealing with obviously print, we're going to see increases in paper prices. We're seeing increases already in print, and we're going to see more significant increases in postage. The 3 Ps, guys: postage, paper, and print. All 3 are going up. They're going to eat into the margin of this business. That's when I was talking about before about pricing. You've got to understand basically the cost of price relationship. There is general inflation happening out there across the board. In addition to getting hit from the print side, right, we're also going to see from the digital side in particular, extreme talent shortages. So this was a study that was done, by LinkedIn, showing just the huge demand. I cannot tell you, every company that I'm working with, that I sit on the board of, that I'm the CEO of, is looking for talent right now. And guys, if you're interested, all seriousness, like, please email me and I'll make sure I give you the email address at the end of the day. I'm hiring across the board, especially for digital marketers, looking for that skill set. It's a hard skill set to find. And on the right-hand side, you can see that everyone knows Bobbit, right? I found this interesting. I really just call this out. I don't mean to say anything bad about Bobbit. They are terrific. But they've had this position open for 2 weeks now, and they've gotten 3 applicants. That's what I mean by short. They're a great company, and yet only 3 people apply. That shows you the shortage of talents is out there for the digitally aware, the digital marketer. And as a whole, we're also seeing pricing increases with as we know, the shift has happened with the Great Resignation. The shift has happened with demands because of overall inflation, demands for pay raises. So on average, it's expected that most companies are going to raise somewhere around the 3 to 4% range. We're going to expect to see increases. All that, as a CEO, I can tell you, we've got to manage our businesses. Whether you're PE-backed, whether you're individually owned, whether you're an employee-owned, you need to be thinking about the bottom line, which is going to come back to my earlier prediction about think about price and think about your prices of all your products. What's another big prediction of mine? But I like wearing my sweatpants and PJs. I'm not going to stand up right now. I'm just not going to do it, guys. I'm going to stay like this. All right. So what are we seeing? There's a huge debate there about, are people going to come back to the office or not? If you're following the news, you'll see just last week, JP Morgan basically told all their bankers, if you're not coming back, you're probably not going to have a job. Period. They're expecting people to come back. You're seeing Google. This is hot off the presses today again. Google literally today just bought $1 billion in London real estate. So these are companies that are saying one thing and doing something very different. A lot of folks out there are talking about, oh, we're going to have very flexibility, and yet they're investing still very significantly in office space. I think there's an important balance, right? We want flexibility, we want our employees to be happy, but I also think that we have lost in the last 2 years some of the creativity and communications. And for me, again, personally, I miss being with the team. I miss talking to them. I miss being around them and having those off-the-cuff conversations that lead to innovation and creativity. It is impossible to whiteboard. In fact, I was in a session the other day where we were trying to do kind of a North Star exercise with a company I'm on the board of. And we were doing it virtually. Some of the folks were in, but we were also trying to do it virtually. We couldn't do it. We had to do it a different way because you could not do a whiteboard whatsoever. So I think you're going to see a balancing coming, but I think do not read into all the news. There's so much news out there saying people aren't going to go back. I think if you really read the news and you look at what CEOs are saying, most CEOs are saying they want to get the people back in the office. So be prepared, be cognizant of it, and think about what it means for you, and think about how do we reward those employees that come back, and how do we find the right environment. That's going to really be the most important part in 2022, but expect a return to the office in some way, shape, or form. So what does all this mean to us? How do we operate? What are my predictions for media companies as a whole? What should we be thinking about when we're thinking about the strategy of running a company? Are you thinking about your departments and what we can do to succeed? The truth is, I haven't changed at all from 5 years ago what I've been saying about the 3 C's are what we have to follow. You got to, follow the yellow brick road, the 3 C's. That's what you see in the background, by the way. If you can't tell, that's the yellow brick road. The first is you have to embrace your community. I continue to say this over and over again, and it gets lost in everything. especially for B2B companies, but in the enthusiast space as well, but anywhere. It's all about the communities that we're trying to serve and getting to know them and understanding. We're not about the ink on the paper. We're not about the dots on the screen. We are about community. That's what a media company means in the modern sense of the word. It's serving a community and building the right products and solutions for them. And if you do that right, and you find them where they're at, that's how you grow as a company. It's a much more product-oriented view. And speaking of that, this is literally less than 5 minutes ago. I just threw this in there. It just came in my inbox from Disney. It kind of shocked me. And how it's just kind of embracing the community? Well, look at it. I pay for Disney Plus as all you guys. I whited out my email address so you guys couldn't steal my account, because I know some of you guys out there. I know Andy's looking, going like, I need a Disney account here. So good news is I'm a top 40 person in Disney. Woohoo! Think about that though. What is this message trying to say to me? It's a broadcaster who I pay a subscription for, right? Who's sending me an email to say, hey, you're a part of something. You're not just buying a product, you belong to a larger group of people. And here's how you're a part of it. And you're a super fan. Jeff, that's amazing, And your favorite time of day, they're telling me things I already know about myself, but they're putting in a positive sense of belonging to something, not just buying a service. Felt when I saw the email again, I was like, wow, this is not something I would expect. How do you and your company think about embracing your communities in a different way? Okay. In embracing the communities, as I talked about before, it comes down to business models as well. You got to build the right products and solutions. There are so many things we are doing today as media companies, right? And sometimes it's too much. But we have to be where we have to be. There's print, there's digital advertising, there's subscriptions, commerce. I can read this whole page, right? All of us are doing different things. I'm also on the board of Benzinga. This is a company that is growing in a hockey stick. I've never seen a media company do this. The team is absolutely amazing, run by an incredible CEO and a COO. They are growing like gangbusters. In part, the market's growing, but they've embraced their community in a real way to say, what do they want and how can we build the right products and solutions out there? And they just continue to innovate. And as they innovate, they get more and more interest on all sides of the equation, not just from the end user, but also from the advertising set. They went from doing 0 last year, or the year before, 0 direct sales to, I think in the past year, they're now up to a couple of $1 million in no time. So it's basically still a small amount, like 30%, but they haven't even built the team out. And they're just now having all these direct relationships. So you have to continue to evolve and continue to get to know the folks. Don't sit back. Always think about how can we serve our community best. Second C in the 3 C's is invest in content. How many times, Matt, have I said this at the previous ones? I feel like it never gets through. Whether you're talking to PE folks or you're talking to CEOs, they're always talking about cost. They're talking about this. They're talking business. They forget, what are we as a media? At the end of the day, we can embrace our community, but we don't have content to bring them in. Then what are we? So if you're a company, if you're not embracing that view and you're not doing that right and investing in content, you're missing the opportunity. And in a year when we have more dollars to spend, this is going back to what I said earlier, where there are going to be more, there is a rise. There's going to be a rise in events. There's going to be a rise in advertising. Reinvest those dollars in what we do best, our content, please. I urge everyone. Finally, the last C is around creating connections. I talked about this before. Connections are at the heart of what we can do. This is the difference between being a media company back in 1990 or 1980, where it was a one-way conversation, to in 2022, really being a two-way conversation in so many different opportunities. In events, right? So I put this up there. Dave Morgan, he's absolutely brilliant, CEO of Simon Media, writes for Media Post and Media Insider. If you don't read his columns, you should. What I loved about him compared to what Ad Age and everyone else said about events was he said, hey, instead of looking at CES and talking about how it was bad and how it was a bellwether for things to come, they all got it wrong, because the bellwether was like, well, people weren't there. Well, we're at the height of COVID. The story wasn't about people not being there. The story was about the people who were there, that there were still thousands and thousands and thousands of people who actually went to CES in the height of COVID. Think about that, how much they're dying for connection. They're dying to meet. Read this article. He talks about how the conversations were even better. The right people were there. If you're not going to do it in person, do it digitally. We do a drawing together at Artist Network as part of Golden Peak Media. Every week we're doing this, right? That's another way to embrace. Think about how to embrace both digitally and in person in the next year. It's going to be a critical piece of our success as media companies. That's it. We're going to do much more in Q&A, and I look forward to hearing you guys' thoughts. Thank you. And as I said before, let me give you real quick my email, guys. It is jeffl@goldenpeakmedia.com. So if any of you guys want to email me later or now, whenever, as I said, please do. I'd love to hear from you. Matt, I'm going to give it back to you and Lisa.
Jeff, terrific job. Thank you, as always. You blew through that, but there's so much stuff there. A lot for us to chew on. I hope folks will chime in. I'm sure there's lots of questions. I'll kick it off. You've had a unique vantage point to kind of watch these last few months unfold, with your role across multiple companies. And you talked a lot about this next year and this next period being one of investment for companies that are being smart. And I'm sure this will tie back to your 3 C's, but what are some specific ways that, I don't know how specific you can get in terms of Golden Peak, but what are some specific areas that you think we should be looking to invest some of that capital?
So I think it's what I said earlier. It's diversifying the business model if you're not already doing that, or further investing. So, it's looking at what we're doing right and saying, can we accelerate what we're doing now further by putting a little more dollars against it and getting more resources in, getting more talent at the senior level or more doers. It's at all levels really, Matt, at the end of the day. Or is it saying, hey, look, we've got some free cash flow coming in and we should actually try to expand into something we're not doing today. So maybe you don't have a data business yet, but you've always wanted to do something in intelligence or data. To take that risk and kind of jump into that pool with those excess dollars. Don't just pocket them. That would be the wrong thing if you're really trying to create true shareholder wealth and you're really trying to propel your company ahead of all your competitors. It's about that. That's what I mean by the investment. It's like, if you just take the dollars and you kind of pay them back out to shareholders, you're never going to actually accelerate into that leadership position. I look at the time that I spent at Adweek, and I think when I got there 5 years ago, and I think to myself, when I started there, it was Media Post, Ad Age, and us, all 3 of us, we were all kind of duking it out. And it always felt like we were losing, right? And within 5 years' time, we had turned the conversation around and everyone was pointing to Adweek as best in class. And we did that through continued investment. There was always more to do. And I think that's just what you have to be able to believe and keep doing and keep giving back.
That's great. Our friend Andy Cal asks, thoughts about raising ad prices as recommended in an environment of programmatic lowballers?
So that's the good news, guys. It was just, again, earlier today, I can't remember which state, I want to say Michigan, but I don't think it was, just announced kind of a no follow. They're looking to basically launch a no follow rule, right? There is so much that's going to happen. I didn't touch on everything, right? Kept it short. So much is happening in privacy right now. So much is happening in privacy. We're going to see 2022 legislation come down with more privacy legislation is going to come out, and it's going to restrict, and we're already seeing that, it's going to restrict the ability for programmatic to be as successful as had been in the past. And people are already changing those dollars and turning those dollars back to direct buys with publishers with contextual targeting, and because of the context of the content that we produce as a whole. So I think, Andy, what's really happening is there's more direct buys coming. Programmatic should always, for most companies, most media companies, there's a few who built models who really have built the models upon programmatic stacks. Most of us, basically, it's a secondary opportunity to fill in some of the gaps. The biggest challenge I had when I was leaving Adweek was just turning off and saying, let's just turn off all the programmatic. It wasn't worth it. I was better off trying to sell through or use that inventory instead for your own events, for your own, for your other products and services that you're trying to offer up. Be more thoughtful. What's that dollar worth at the end of the day, Andy? So it's really about a direct conversation, but I honestly believe, and we're having the same discussion at Golden Peak Media, going back and saying, this is a rate card. It hasn't changed in years. What can we bring it up? And it's as simple, by the way, as just saying, look, all of our prices are, everything's costing us more money. Our people are costing us more money. That's the biggest single expense. Our direct mail costs are costing us more money. Our printing costs for the magazines are costing us more money. There is not a single place you can't look and kind of say there are increases happening. If we don't pass them on, then we're just taking we're just seeing margin decreases. So it's an honest conversation. I don't think anyone is shocked today to hear that they might have to pay more. And again, if you've got, it's a little ballsy, which is to say the opposite of low ball is to be a little ballsy and just say, look, try it. What's the worst that happens, Andy? You have to negotiate a price. You have to negotiate. That's not a bad place to be, It's really not a bad place to be.
And selfishly, Jeff, as an events person, I'd like to hear your take on pricing events going forward with the pent up energy and excitement and appetite from sponsors and attendees. How are you guys thinking about pricing events?
So I'm looking at figuring out how to raise them again, and looking to try to understand, again, everything when it comes to price is a supply and demand question. It's a basic microeconomics class that we took back in, 101 that we took back in, college. And the thing that most media companies do poorly, and Matt, you've been on discussions with me at Adweek when I talked about price, right? And Jemima as well, and Jeff, where I would say raise the price, and people always are like, oh, right? And I was like, look, you won't know if you have the right price until someone says no, until someone pushes back. And I'll give you the example, guys, of an example of this, which is, talk about price and cost ratios. In the first year that we launched Brand Week, because this is all public information, first year that we launched Brand Week, I think the price was $2,500, call it around there, was the ticket price. That's a high ticket price, right? And we knew it was a high ticket price. So in our first year, what did we do to try to make it a little bit more appetizing for everyone to basically go there? Is we included the hotel costs in it. Now, that was a huge clusterfuck, to put it simply, in terms of the fact that now all of a sudden you got to deal with everyone's hotels and reservations and people don't show up and you have the cost, right? So certainly going into the second year, I didn't want to do that as a whole, right? But also think about how much that ate into the margin of the profitability of the event. So in the second year, when things came around, we sat around the table and we talked about it as a team. And there were a number of people who said, no, but we offered it last year, so we have to offer it again this year. And I said, we don't. And by the way, if someone really feels that strongly about it, let's have that conversation with the individual. So we went out with the same price minus the cost of the hotel. In other words, same exact price, but the hotel was no longer included. And I think we only got a handful of people who actually said to us, hey, last year it included that. How come it doesn't include it this year? And our answer was just very straightforward. Because the program is getting better, because it's a bigger hotel, because it's this, this, and this. And everyone said, okay, fine. And they accepted it. So I think we all find it easy. It's always easy to sell something at a lower price. The question is, if you can get people to the point where they're just about to say no, but where they're still going to say yes, that's the optimal price. There's no secret to doing it other than trying and then negotiating from there.
Jeff, Emily's question, I'll ask you now, I think ties back to, the importance of investing in content, which is something I've heard you preach for years and in editorial resources. She asks, do you think companies will continue to hire contractors and freelancers versus full-timers, especially in the area of content marketing?
Great question. I think, first of all, there's different philosophies out there depending upon the company, right? Some have really more embraced basically having full-time staff, but in the area of content marketing, it has generally more outsourced in most companies that I'm aware of. I personally think that trend is going to continue because it's that kind of gig economy is good for the flexibility of, it's good for the company to have that type of flexibility depending upon what type of sponsored content advertising is coming in. So it's a nice balancing act. I think when I look on the other side, when I look over at the editorial side, I think that has got to be brought more and more in-house. You have to less look at it as a cost of doing business and more as a revenue pricing. So in other words, one is basically, hey, I've already got this commitment for a certain amount of revenue. I need to fulfill it. The other is if I have more content, I can create more revenue through advertising, subscriptions, through commerce and the like. And I think that's where it gets lost. If you look at, a lot of people think of content or the production of content in the editorial sense of the word as a cost center. It really is a revenue profit center if done right.
So Lisa alluded to it, and I know you mentioned it. You took on a new role as CEO at Golden Peak Media. Tell us a little bit about the company and about the enthusiast market and what kind of has you excited about the future.
Sure. So yeah, I'm very excited to be there. What has me most excited is the team. I got to tell you, what an incredible team of people at Golden Peak Media. They live and die the brand. They've been so loyal to it. It's gone through its ups and downs. I'm always very honest. As you know, Matt, I'm very transparent about how things are, right? It's a company that came out of F&W. As F&W came out of the bankruptcy, Terry O'Toole bought these assets. He is hugely committed to the category as a whole. We cover kind of the crafting industry, the arts and the arts industry, kind of broadly put. So everything from knitting to sewing and the like. So obviously not necessarily my forte, right? It's not what you see me doing, or could anyone who knows me can conceptualize me sitting there kind of knitting something together patiently, right? I have no patience. But again, what an incredible team of folks. In the enthusiast space as a whole, which I think is really exciting, and part of why I was also, Terry asked me to join, was kind of the view. I was having a call with another CEO of another enthusiast company, and they said, they had, over the last couple of years, they'd always gone to the B2C kind of conventions and events. And he said he was invited to speak at a B2B one, went there, and was shocked to see how much the B2B companies were doing compared to B2C companies, and how much more knowledgeable, and how there is much more parallel between the enthusiast base and the B2B companies. So when I look at kind of what I'm doing, it's a company that has tremendous opportunity in the upside in revenue. It's a company that is so, it's more print than it should be, but we're growing digital fast. We're bringing memberships aboard, and subscriptions have been launched, digital subscriptions launched. It's really got a lot of things behind it. What I'm putting together a plan, like everywhere else when a new CEO comes in, it's a little bit of time, 90 days to build the plan with the team. As I look at Golden Peak, I just see a lot of upside opportunity from where we are today to what we're going to be. And it goes back to what I said before. It's embracing those 3 C's. It's really understanding our community better and stop thinking like a traditional media company, and really start thinking about a 21st century media company that is more about the community, putting their needs first, and then building products and solutions for them. It's kind of simply put, but that's the way we're going to succeed, and that's the way we're going to continue to grow the company as it has been growing.
Well, we look forward to watching you do it. I can say when you took over Adweek 5 years ago, well ahead of my joining your team, you're right. I mean, Adweek was really duking it out with Ad Age and the other players in that market. And I'm obviously biased, but you took us a long way. We've come a long way. And I don't know if you saw it, and we didn't rehearse this, but if I can share my screen, I'd like to show you what happened on Twitter on Wednesday. Wednesday was National Roast Day, according to Wendy's anyway. And if you don't follow Wendy's on Twitter, folks, they are a tremendous Twitter follow. But they had brands basically inviting them to roast them. So you see Yoplait Yogurt invited them to roast them. Anheuser-Busch. Wendy's says, "You're not even from the best city in Missouri." Affleck says, "Roast us." There's a picture of a turkey. And then Ad Age, might regret this one, but roast me. And Wendy's replied, "Look, it's Boomer Adweek." So we all got quite a kick out of that on our side, Jeff, and I thought you would as well.
Yeah,
Lisa, I know you have some questions for Jeff, so let me get out of your way.
So Jeff, again, thank you, and an amazing presentation. So my question to you is, I would say that it's maybe fair that you move a little bit faster than a more traditional publisher. Let's just put that out there, okay?
Yeah.
So let's just say you're anybody here who's working for a more traditional brand, or at any publisher, who is dealing with more of a legacy and a little bit more like what you're coming into now, but they're a little bit more resistant to investing in content or investing in audience and / community. What would you say to them to embrace it, to make it, move a little bit faster instead of delaying and pushing it off and stuff like that? What would you incentivize them with? How do you help everyone here make everybody above them see we really need to do this?
Get the CEO my email address. I'll be your advocate, and I won't do it I'll do it for free. No, I think, look, it's we're all part of a community ourselves, right? An employee base and a family in certain ways, right? I looked at Adweek as my family. And, I think that what I'm seeing, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about Golden Peak, it's a company that's been through, as you said, it went through some rough days, and it's on a growth path now, but the people who have stayed there are continuing to invest and put the energy in, but we've also banged our heads against the wall along the way. And I've seen this at every company I've been at, where it's either slower than you want, we're not doing the right things. And what we have to do is eventually what all of us do as people is we stop banging our heads. We just say enough's enough. Like, I'm not going to do this anymore. We just accept the mediocre. We accept the average. We accept the way that it is. The only thing you really have the power to do is not accept it. Continue to speak up. If the company and the executives are not willing to listen to you, then you don't belong there. Come work for me. That's it. Come work for me, guys. I want people like that. I want people who are going to break the rules. I want people who are going to not ask for permission, but beg for forgiveness at times, right? There's a balancing act with everything, but you have to decide what you really want for yourself. And if even if you love your community and you love what you do, is that the right company? If they're not listening to you and they're not taking it, I joined only 10 days ago, right? So in my speech, I talked about the simple concept, and I think Matt, Jemima, and others who are from Adweek can kind of attest to this. The best ideas come from the bottom up. The CEOs, we can lead with strategy and general ideas, but the real execution happens at the doer level. And if we're not listening as executive teams to the doers and we're not taking their ideas, I always walked around the office of Adweek, always, not because I can't sit in my seat, but because actually I wanted to stop and talk to people. I wanted to hear what was really happening. Understand the way that companies function, guys, as a team is as follows. There's a CEO sits at the top. It's a capitalist structure. They have a set of reports to them. Then they have a set of reports below this, the pyramid structure. We all know this, right? But what you forget is, what are the roles of the people? The roles of the people who are reporting to the CEO are to control the information that the CEO hears.
Right.
And typically they do that well. They really do. Every once in a while you'll hear about disagreement between the two of them, but they're controlling the information. But sometimes controlled information means misinformation or lack of information. Mm-hmm. So by finding the CEOs, the people who really have a true open door, who are willing to dialogue with anyone in the company, right, they're the CEOs that ultimately will get the information that will make the difference, that will understand what's really happening at the end of the day. That's really the answer, which is just communicate. That's all we can do.
I love that. I mean, it just, there's been so much that has happened in the last, what is it, 2.5 years already? I mean, it's getting a little crazy. It's like the time frame picture is so weird. Was there any big surprise that you weren't expecting when sort of the COVID I would say before COVID leading in, and how the industry has adapted? Is there any big surprise that you didn't expect that really sort of, you took a step back and went, whoa, I didn't see that one coming?
Yeah, I'll start with the first one, which was the layoffs. Okay. I was shocked by it. I turned to my CFO and I said, am I the idiot? I don't understand. We're not even into this thing. Yeah, we're not getting great news from advertisers, right, but we haven't even had a chance, and everyone's already announcing furloughs and layoffs in less than a month. Either those companies were in really bad shape to begin with and just couldn't take any type of cracks, or they were jumping the gun. At Adweek, as again, the team knows, we didn't lay anyone off. We didn't furlough anyone. We grew. We actually grew in 2020. And so again, that goes to the investment mentality. That wasn't easy. I aged quickly, so did the team. We took on, it was very hard, and all of us together got there. We worked together. That's what I was talking about before, as a team, that we did it. But that was the first thing that really shocked me, right? The second was just in general, I saw this kind of following attitude, it was everybody got the software system for an event. We all got to go get the same one. And I felt like a herd mentality that was switching over, rather than really, again, thinking it through and saying, what is it that I need for the type of things I want to do, and what type of events do I want to put on? And rather than just slapping something together, I was disappointed by us as an industry in terms of how we brought the physical event to the virtual world. And I went to a ton of them, and the team knows this. Every time I went, I was like, this is just basically, talking heads. And guys, that's what I'm looking for, questions. I want to have a conversation. I'm okay talking to you. Where's the conversation? Because that's what an event is about. An event is supposed to be about engaging. It can't just be, it has to be an experience. And we went out of our way, and Matt, I think, was going to kill me when we did Brand Week, and we did the Taste of Brand Week. And I said, no, we're going to do Taste of Brand Week, and we're going to ship to everyone's home these incredible products. And then we're going to get everyone on the call to talk to the CEO and entrepreneur about those products and why they did that. But it was fun. It was engaging. It gave us an opportunity to get outside of our comfort zone as people. That lacked too often in the kind of the 2020, 2021 space, right? And I think as I think ahead to 2022, again, I hear a lot of people talk about the event world, and I hear them talk about virtual and how important virtual is. Mm-hmm. We've always done virtual. You always have the ability to do virtual. I think no one's thinking through really what that means. We're going to do hybrid events, but I'd like to know what that means, because I've had no one define that to me. That means you cannot do two events. You cannot both do a really great event in person and also do a really incredible event in virtual and have a community or have senses of community. So what does that mean to really be hybrid? Which is more important? Is it the virtual world or is it the physical world? For me, it's going to be the physical. So, but what do I do at virtual to bring them in, to give them access, to do something more than just have a video player happening? That will be the questions that we have to think through.
So that's such a great segue, because one of the things that's coming up, and I'll ask the last question from the chat in a second, but as an association, we're going to create our own event in early May. And one of the things that I'm passionate about is how we include everyone who can't be there physically, and they wouldn't have been no matter what. So it's just the way our audience works. This literally everyone who's here today. So how do we make it meaningful and engaging and have the conversations? And so from our perspective, I think as an association, what we've learned from and Matt is a huge part of this, and the rest of the board, is we've been able to have these town halls where, obviously we couldn't be together, but we ended up having such incredible conversations that literally that's where the hashtag where the conversation happens came from. The former MCMA, now MACMA, having everybody show up, and everybody's all over the country. So I think that there's a way. I'm not sure. I'm certainly not the expert on it, but part of what we're going to talk about on MACMA Day is the power of the pivot and how those in-person events became virtual, digital, whatever you want to call it, and whether it was the same level of success as before or not, but if it provided enough of a community sense, it was really the question. And how these companies are still thriving, we're all still here. And yeah, so now as far as I'm concerned, it's how do we all roll into the new normal? What does it look like? And how do we make it successful and make it feel like the community that you've been talking about?
And Lisa, I'll give you some examples. So you're talking about peer-to-peer learning, right? And peer-to-peer conversations. And Matt knows how passionate I am about this, right? I've been talking about it for so long. That was one of the things that many of us were able to do more successfully digitally than we could do in person events. You try the roundtable during luncheons and stuff like that, and they were always okay. But digitally, because in fact, we were just all craving for some conversation, with someone who was, of a similar ilk, that really worked well. The other is what's happening on the right-hand side, which is the chat window, right? And the ability to ask questions. So in the traditional world, again, when we did something virtually or we broadcast something, it was one way. I actually think the ability of people to ask questions through chat or have conversations and actually have, while someone's presenting, talk about what they thought was funny, what they liked. We've seen people try to do it with Twitter. We saw people try to do it, with other kind of social platforms that they try to bring into a physical event. But in the virtual world, it was incredible to see the comments, to see the engagement. How do you keep that level of engagement during, when you have a main stage speaker, right? How do you allow people who are not in the room to ask the question, or people who are even in the room to ask the question without having to get up the mic? That's, to me, when I think hybrid, I think about those things, take the best of both worlds and bring them together. But I think most people are just saying, well, we're just going to broadcast something out.
I'm going to hope that we figure it out soon, because May's coming. So let's do this question from Valerie. What trends, if any, do you see in companies investing sponsorship dollars in conferences?
There is going to be a lot of dollars in sponsorships, basically. They're all holding those dollars back. Again, if you think about what happened with CES. Again, to me, CES is a success because it talks about who was there. Forget about who wasn't there. Think about all the people who were there. But on the flip side, there's also all those dollars that didn't go anywhere, and they've got to be invested. So they have money sitting in budgets. And as we all know, what does a marketer like to do? They like to spend their budgets. They don't want to be under budget. I never heard a marketer say, yeah, I'm trying to be under budget, because that just means next year they get less. So you've got a lot of event folks. What they're looking for, and the difference, again, is in 2022, is they're going to be looking for real engagement again. No matter what we say, let's be honest, guys, we have not delivered the goods at the level that we could for true sponsorship, for the type of conversations that they have in person as compared to that of virtual, as compared to that of in person. In person, the leads are just better. It doesn't matter if you set up one-to-one meetings. It doesn't matter all the things that we've tried to do right. It's the fact that someone walked by the booth, you're able to stand next to someone and have a drink. Those are the moments that create the opportunities for salespeople. And that's why people sponsor those events, is to have those moments. So they're going to come back because it's not replaceable with virtual. We can give them a list. We can say, here's a much bigger list. Here's people you can hit up, but it's not the same as engaging with someone and actually having a real lead.
Agreed. It's definitely different. There's no doubt about it. So we have a question from our former president, Joe. So let me read it to you. So can you speak to how to assess a prospective audience, how big, how to segment top tier, and what they're potentially worth, next tier, and so on? How do you get both share of market and share of wallet, virtual or otherwise?
Are we talking about shows here, Joe? You can just either answer or just say, yes, I'm watching the chat.
It can be your overall product mix, whether it's live events or virtual events or
whatever it may be. So for any time we're talking about audience again, so I'm new to Golden Peak, right? I've got 4 communities we're trying to serve. I don't know these communities. As I said, I'm not a knitter myself. The first thing I'm trying to do is understand who they are, right? And like, what are they passionate about? What do they care about? What are their needs? It's an exercise, I talk a little bit, and I think I've maybe said this once before. I talk about it in terms of like different types of CEOs and different types of people and how they kind of think about strategy. You have kind of the CFO, CEO who walks in and everything's about the numbers, right? Just show me the model. If the business model looks good, we're going to approve it. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. The strategy guy's got like PowerPoints up the wazoo, right? Can build all the PowerPoints. The sales guy is only about revenue, doesn't care about costs. And now there's a generation of all of us, and we're all part of this, by the way. You guys are all the future as well, of what I'll call the product people. The product marketers, the people who understand audience. They put the audience first. And that's really what your question is going to, Joe, which is it's an audience first mentality. Who are they? What do they want? What do they need? What are the gaps in the marketplace? What are other competitors doing right? It's looking at it through the lens of why do people want to be there versus here? Where are they spending their time? The way that I do it for me personally is I literally I spend a lot of time thinking about, looking at them, understanding them, looking at the gaps, looking at what they're doing on my competitor sites, talking to them. And, we used to do, no one has the money anymore to really do true focus groups, but still you can talk to people. That's one of the things I love most about the events is because when I'm there, I actually can talk to all the marketers. It's amazing what they have to tell me and what they'll say to me, like, hey, you should do that. And they'll have brilliant ideas just by talking to them, right? At Adweek. Same here. So I think it comes down to when you're trying to figure out, like, should I go into this new area or not? There's basic, I was talking to the former CEO of Source Media, and he's now the CEO of Cyber Alliance, I believe it's called Alliances, which is around cybersecurity. And he started up a whole new kind of division, new media company in there. Why did he go into that marketplace? Well, yes, there are also trend lines. There are some new markets that are growing out of kind of the new world that we live in. Cyber and cybersecurity is a huge area, right? That's going to grow. Alternative energy is another big area that's going to grow. Benzinga saw it with basically the finance and the individual personal wealth and personal investing. So it's a combination of looking at the macroeconomics of an industry as a whole, combined with the needs and wants of the audiences and where you can fill the gaps. For Adweek, again, but for Adweek, when we launched Brand Week, the hardest thing about that was I remember I got on a phone call with the CMO. I'm like, this is an event built for CMOs, Joe, right? Well, I want them to pay for it, right? I expect them to pay a lot of money. And I got on a phone call with the CMO and I said, you should come here. It's going to be a great show. He goes, great, send me the complimentary ticket. I said, no, you have to pay. He literally started laughing hysterically. He said, there's no way I'm ever going to pay. I get invited to everything and I don't pay to go to an event. Well, sure enough, next year they were paying. They were paying in droves, right? Because we proved to them that we built something for them. What we made sure of that audience mix was with marketers. They were used to going to events where they were one marketer to 5 other vendors, whether that's agency people or otherwise. We put it through the lens of the audience.
Thank you. That's perfect. The Media Audience and Content Marketing Association. Thank you.
All comes together.
It does, doesn't it? It's beautiful.
Yes. And congratulations on your rebrand and for getting Matt to agree to be your second here. He's amazing.
Thank you. It's the best. So I want to thank you so much for such an amazing talk. Really, thank you. The insights were phenomenal. Everybody who showed up today, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for supporting us. Please find the website, find us on LinkedIn, and follow us. Matt, thank you for everything. Everybody at TVD and Associates, thank you so much for putting this together, running it beautifully. Again, thank you all. Any questions, reach out to Jeff, myself, Matt. We're all on LinkedIn. We're all on the website. We're really so grateful and we look forward to you seeing at the next event.